Thank you, Ken Corla. And Minister, I want to raise some serious concerns that I have about the NowDoc service. And just to be clear, the NowDoc service is an out-of-hours GP service covering 3 municipalities, Carrick-on-Shannon and Ballinamore in South Leitrim and Boyle in North Roscommon. And my concern relates to the fact that there is a real possibility that this service will be privatised and moved from HSE control. But it's the impact of that that I'm concerned about. And the impact is there is a real possibility, even probability, and I'll explain why in a moment, that this change would ensure that out-of-hours calls would be, first of all, diverted to a centre in Carlow, and then that out-of-hours services in Carrick-on-Shannon would be diverted to Sligo after midnight. Now, the reason that I'm saying that is because I'm looking here at a consultation document, examination of the GP out-of-hours service in Donegal and South Leitrim, NowDoc, and in this document they look at the objectives of this proposal and they look at some of the proposed options. And one of the options that they propose in phase 1 is to examine the options available to locate Carrick-on-Shannon under Sligo CareDoc. Now, there are many issues with the NowDoc service, and I don't have time to go into them today. I just really want to focus on this particular aspect, the possible closure of the Carrick-on-Shannon office after midnight. As of now, the NowDoc out-of-hours GP service covers just over 70% of the week, operating Monday to Friday from 6 p.m. at night to 8 a.m. in the morning and 24 hours on Saturday and Sunday, 118 hours per week. Very significant. But under these proposals, there may be a cut in out-of-hours service from 118 hours to 62 hours per week. Because if the service in Carrick-on-Shannon is to finish at midnight, any client that requires the out-of-hours GP service would have to be directed to CareDoc in Sligo, a round trip from Carrick-on-Shannon of 109 kilometres or Ballinamore of 128. And it's very clear from the options presented in this document that if this goes ahead in a few years' time, rural areas, particularly South Leitrim, North Roscommon, will not be well served. So my issue is to ensure that an optimum level of care is provided in the NowDoc area so that people can access out-of-hours GP services in a timely fashion. I am aware that NowDoc and CareDoc have identified a number of concerns that impact on patient safety and quality of service. They are listed in this document and they need to be dealt with. But it is crucial, Minister, I want to say to you, that whatever changes are made, they must benefit patients. They must provide a safe service, but they must also ensure greater access to healthcare rather than any diminution of services. And as I said, some of the options presented in this consultation document would result in a withdrawal of certain out-of-hours services from Carrick-on-Shannon. And the reason, finally, Minister, that I raised this issue this evening is, first of all, to highlight it, and secondly, to look for a guarantee from you that there will be no diminution of services under any changes proposed to this service.
Thank you, Deputy Harkin. Minister, thank you.
Thank you, Ken Corla. I want to thank Deputy Harkin for raising this issue. The provision of out-of-hours GP care is a fundamental component of general practice, and appropriate access to GPs out-of-hours services must be maintained. Under the General Medical Services Scheme, contracted general practitioners must make suitable arrangements to enable contact to be made with them or a locum or a deputy for emergencies outside normal practice hours. Most choose to participate in GP out-of-hours cooperatives or other GP out-of-hours service providers to meet this contractual requirement. These services have developed and expanded over time and are now an essential part of our primary care services. Access to GP care outside of usual practice hours is necessary to ensure to the greatest extent possible that urgent care needs are met in the community rather than in an acute care setting. NowDoc out-of-hours services provides urgent GP care to patients of County Donegal and South Leitrim. As the Deputy will be aware, while GP out-of-hours services are largely provided by private cooperatives, the NowDoc service is run and managed by the HSE in partnership with CareDoc, who provide GPs for the delivery of care. The HSE Community Healthcare Organisation for the region concerned has advised that they have entered exploratory discussions with relevant stakeholders to examine the most effective arrangements needed to continue to deliver a safe, quality-driven service for Donegal and South Leitrim. This examination of the service forms part of the HSE response to significant clinical concerns raised by the CareDoc GP board members. The HSE has given assurance that no decision has been made in relation to the redesign of the operating model for these areas, and no decision will be made without the active involvement of relevant stakeholders. The HSE will continue to communicate and engage with all relevant stakeholders to ensure they are fully consulted regarding any future developments. The HSE CHO has confirmed that there are currently no plans to move the treatment centre from Carrick-on-Shannon or change to the level of services provided there, so no plans. It should be noted that the GP out-of-hours service for Sligo Leitrim is managed as a singular model of service through a service level agreement with CareDoc. As this model is operating effectively, it is not included in the current examination underway. Regarding out-of-hours services in general and across the country, the HSE engages regularly with all service providers and provides significant support to our service delivery. The out-of-hours support grant, which has been in place since 2020, was increased this winter. Additional temporary funding has also been provided to out-of-hours service providers to allow the rostering of more doctors in treatment centres between the hours of 6 and 10 p.m. This allows for more patients to be seen over this busy winter period and help reduce the need for ED attendance. Service quality and patient safety in the delivery of out-of-hours GP care remains paramount for the HSE and directs its decision-making in relation to the provision of services by providers including NowDoc.
Thank you, Minister, for that. And I heard what you said, and I have it written here in front of me. Thank you for your answer. You say the HSE have given assurances that no decision has been made in relation to the redesign of the operating model, and no decision will be made without the active involvement of relevant stakeholders. And that's fine, and that there are no plans. But, Minister, this is the document I'm concerned about, and this is the consultation document that the HSE have put out there. And one of the options that they have here is to locate Carrick-on-Shannon under Sligo CareDoc. Now, there are 3 phases in their options, and this is right up there in phase 1. So you can be sure that this is an important part of what the HSE are looking at. And Minister, I suppose what I'm concerned about is that we may end up at a point where the service is not designed to suit the people, but that it's designed the other way around, and that people may have to travel long distances to access healthcare in order to suit the service. I mean, for any service, you have to take settlement patterns, and especially where there is dispersed population, you have to take that into consideration when you're designing the services. This option here is the very opposite. So you can understand that people are very concerned when they see this, because it's not a plan, it's not a decision right now, but the purpose of tonight is to try to impress on you and the decision makers that it doesn't become a plan and that it doesn't become a decision. Because too often we read all the lovely words about streamlining, consolidating, centralising, redesigning, all those lovely words, and at the end of the day they often mean a reduction in services. I would not like to see that happening. I don't want to see it happen.
Thanks, Deputy, and your point is very well made. To reiterate, the HSE continue to work in partnership with NowDoc and CareDoc to ensure that the delivery of a safe and appropriate GP out-of-hours service. No decision has been made in regard to any redesign of the service in the area, and any such decision will involve the stakeholders concerned. The HSE CHO has confirmed that there are currently no plans to move the treatment centre from Carrick-on-Shannon or change to the level of the services provided there. And I know you're trying to make sure that this doesn't happen. And I want to assure the Deputy that while the HSE CHO concerned is currently examining the delivery of out-of-hours services for the area, no decision has been made, and in particular, there are no plans currently to move the Carrick-on-Shannon Treatment Centre or change the services provided there. And I do take on board the points you've made. The importance of out-of-hours care doc or NowDoc or whatever service is being provided is hugely important, and especially for those who are living in more predominantly rural or small villages or towns. But certainly I will raise your concerns with the relevant CHO. Thank you.